Welcome to this video. I am so happy you're here. And let me ask you a question. I bet you have a hard time understanding native English speakers on TV, on movies, and everywhere outside of the classroom, right? Does that sound like you? Well, don't worry. That's exactly what I'm going to help you do in this video. We're going to do a listening exercise and I'm going to teach you a natural expression and natural pronunciation changes that will help you understand fast-paced native English speakers everywhere outside of the classroom. How awesome does that sound? Of course, I'm Jennifer from jforrestenglish.com, and this channel is dedicated to helping you sound like a fluent, confident English speaker. So let's get started with this video. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to say a sentence at a natural pace 3 times. And I want you to write down exactly what you hear word for word. And then at the end, I'll tell you what I said very slowly and I'll explain the expression that I use and the pronunciation changes that took place. Are you ready? Okay, great. The media really ripped them apart. The media really ripped them apart. The media really ripped them apart. Okay, how did you do? That was really fast, right? That sentence just went by like that. And this is exactly how I talk to my friends or how I talk to my coworkers and how I talk everywhere outside of a formal presentation using fast-paced and natural pronunciation changes. So let me explain to you what I said very slowly. The media really ripped him apart. And this sounded like the media really ripped him apart. Okay. So in this sentence, we have a very natural phrasal verb. Can you see it? Can you see the phrasal verb? So for a phrasal verb, you always want to look for a verb and a preposition. And that's how you know it's a phrasal verb. But in this sentence, the phrasal verb is separated by the pronoun him. But the phrasal verb is rip apart, rip apart. So that would be our base phrasal verb, to rip apart. And then here we have someone, him, to rip someone apart. Okay, so now what does this phrasal verb mean? So remember that phrasal verbs do not have a literal meaning. They're idiomatic. So you can't guess the meaning based on the verb, okay? So this phrasal verb, to rip someone apart, it means to criticize someone severely. So emphasis on the severely. So when you rip someone apart, you criticize them severely, okay? So when I said the media really ripped them apart, is this a positive expression or a negative expression based on our definition? Well, of course, to be criticized severely is very negative. So this is a negative expression. It's not something that we want, okay? Now, in this case, when you rip someone apart, most likely the him, although we don't know who the him is because it's a pronoun, but the him is most likely a public figure, a politician. Politicians are always ripped apart by the media, okay? Perhaps a celebrity or a senior executive such as a CEO. So these are the people that come to my mind when I think of someone being ripped apart. Now, in that sense, this context may not be one that you use regularly in your speech, okay? But you might read it a lot because the media is always negative. They only report on negative news, and this is a negative expression to rip someone apart. So most likely when you read the newspaper, you will see this expression a lot. Okay, so it's good to be aware of what it means in this context for when you're reading the news. Now, let me give you another way that you can use this expression that will be more natural to add to your vocabulary that you can use. Okay, so you can also rip something apart. Now, keep in mind, this frequently happens with phrasal verbs when it applies to both a someone or a something, but it doesn't happen 100% of the time. So you can't assume that a phrasal verb will automatically apply to both someone and something, okay? But in this case, it does. Now, to rip something apart has the exact same meaning. It would be to criticize something severely. So let's think of an example in a business context where you could rip something apart, okay? Let me give you an example. I could say, the client ripped apart our proposal. So in this sentence, what's the something? The noun. What's the something? It's the proposal. So the client is the subject, the phrasal verb is rip apart, and the something is the proposal. The client ripped apart our proposal. So that's like saying the client criticized severely our proposal. So they didn't like it. It's a negative expression. But this is the reality of the world. Clients are going to rip apart things that you do. So this is definitely a way that you can use this expression. Now let me give you another one. My boss ripped my idea apart. So here, what is the something? The noun. My idea. That's the something. And notice here, I said my boss ripped my idea apart. So what's different? What's different between my last sentence and this sentence? Do you see it? It's the placement of the noun. So in the first sentence, the noun came after the preposition, but in the second sentence, the noun came between the verb and the preposition. This is what we call a separable phrasal verb, when the location of the noun is flexible and there's two choices. But let's look back at our original sentence. The media really ripped them apart. Now, in this context, him is a pronoun, and I cannot say the media really ripped apart him. I can't say that. So when you turn your noun into a pronoun, the placement is not flexible. For a pronoun, it must come between the verb and the preposition. Okay, so that's really important to remember with phrasal verbs. So now you know what this phrasal verb means and how you can use it with both someone and something. Hopefully you don't have to, because it's a very negative expression. But now let's look at the pronunciation. So I'm going to say our original sentence again. The media really ripped them apart. Ripped them apart. So let me ask you, what's the verb tense? Is this in the future, the present, the past? What verb tense am I using for the verb? Well, it's the past simple. And this is a regular past simple verb, which means we form it with ed. Ripped, ripped. Okay, but notice my pronunciation of this past simple verb. Ripped. Ripped them apart. Ripped them apart. Ripped them apart. Can you hear it? That's because there are 3 different ways to pronounce ed in the past simple. And one of them is a very soft T, okay, but very soft. And that's what I'm using in ripped, ripped. But notice I'm linking together ripped and him. And here's what happens. Ripped them, ripped them. So what happens here? Well, I'm actually dropping the H from him. It's silent and it becomes im. So I just drop that H, im. So now I have ripped with a T and a vowel sound, im, and I just link that together. Ripped them apart. Ripped them apart. Okay, awesome. So notice how those sounds link together. Now, remember, you don't have to link them together. That's fine. But you do have to pronounce ripped correctly. That is not optional. Okay? So the pronunciation is with a soft T, ripped. So you can definitely say ripped him apart and pronounce it without linking, but you'll notice a native English speaker is going to say ripped them apart. Ripped them apart. Okay? So one more time, the media really ripped them apart. Awesome job! Now you have a new phrasal verb, you know how to form it, and you know how to say it naturally. You can understand native English speakers better, and you're going to add this to your speech so you sound more natural as well. How amazing is that? So please don't rip this video apart, please. Give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe. And before you go, make sure you head on over to my website, jforrestenglish.com, and download this free speaking guide where I share with you 6 tips to help you feel confident speaking English in public. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy studying. Awesome! You're becoming more fluent and natural with every video. Don't stop there. Make sure you watch this video, and don't forget about this video, and don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, bye!